The Dearborn Independent, July 9, 1921, number 37. Mr. Ford's page. If the tax is too high, the revenue will yield nothing, says Emerson. Though we may not have learned the secret of government support, whether by taxation or otherwise, in the very nature of things we are made aware when we are on the wrong road. The decrease in revenues under the present tax system indicates that we are on the wrong road. When the tax-producing forces become overburdened and discouraged by the tax that is laid on them, it is merely a repetition of the stupidity of killing the goose that lays the golden egg. It must be admitted that taxation is not the only thing that is wrong with the business life of the country. There has been an unwise manipulation of the monetary agencies also, but the hint of overtaxation and underreturns no government can disregard. As a general principle, the complaint against taxes is not well taken. By this is meant, of course, taxes in general. In theory, taxation is the contribution of the beneficiaries of our institutions toward paying the cost of the benefits. Dwellers in a city have water service and fire protection and police oversight and public lighting and various other community benefits, and they each pay their quota toward maintaining them. In theory, our governments are cooperative undertakings. When we estimate what we get in return for our ordinary taxes, it is not a bad bargain at all. Still, taxes have always had a bad name. People have always complained about them, and these are facts not to be disregarded. When people persist in disliking and speaking ill of a practice, there must be some reason for it. Anyway, it is a clue worth following. It may be that taxation is the wrong way to provide for the support of governments. It may be that governments ought to be so organized as to pay for themselves. It may be that taxation is the right way, but that the method of laying the tax is wrong. It may be that the tax is laid in the wrong proportion, or on the wrong values, or on the wrong people. It may indeed be that certain values ought not to be taxed at all. As it is with us, we tax initiative and progress. There is one whole school of thought which declares that we penalize ambition and success. The man who refuses to improve his property is allowed a low tax. The man who improves his property and puts a home on it is charged a heavy tax. If a house is left unpainted and unordered through the shiftlessness of its owner, it is taxed lightly. If a man takes pride in his premises and keeps his house painted and trimmed, he is charged more taxes for it. There is a great host of people who are ready to say that this is not the right method of taxation. These are questions which have been with us a long time, but there has been little actual progress toward improvement. There has been talk of economy of administration, tax reform, and the like, but the sole result has been an increase in the different kinds of ways we are taxed without any appreciable increase in the benefits which the tax monies are supposed to buy. But when taxes are mentioned nowadays, the reference is usually to the extraordinary taxes which still remain from war times. War is nothing but taxation to the limit. The people pay and pay and pay, and their children after them to the fourth generation. They pay their own tax, and they pay as many taxes as can be piled on to the commodities they purchase. Taxes are paid, the government sees to that, but not always by the persons who turn in the payment. They collect it all down the line. There are two points of view from which to study this matter of taxation. One is that of the taxpayer, the other is that of the government. In times of emergency, it is the government point of view that prevails, and perhaps always will prevail more or less. From the government point of view, therefore, a good tax is a tax that yields sufficient revenue, and a bad tax is one that does not. If that is accepted as a rule, and circumstances usually force such acceptance, it is not difficult to see that many of the present special taxes are bad taxes, because they kill the very source from which they hope to draw. There is, as Emerson says, a higher law that steps in to regulate such matters when man overreaches himself. Though no checks to new evils appear, the checks exist and will appear. If the government is cruel, the governor's life is not safe. If you tax too high, the revenue will yield nothing. If you make the criminal code sanguinary, juries will not convict. These natural checks have already begun to appear in the United States. If you tax too high, the revenue will yield nothing should be engraved on the walls of Congress as a prophecy which has been fulfilled. The revenue of the country from taxation continues to decrease. The reasons for this are numerous. Some will say that it is due to the industrial depression, to the fact that many people are not working and consequently are not buying as heavily as before. And why are they not working? Because there is so little ready cash for industrial use. And why is there so little cash for industrial use? Because industries have been called upon to bear so disproportionate a part of the tax burden that investing capitalists have begun to put their money where it will be free from the tax law. There are in this country a number of avenues for investment of capital on which no tax need be paid. Municipal and state bonds, for example. The label non-taxable draws a great deal of timid capital. And of course, this kind of investment in its turn increases the burden of the taxes and at the same time reduces the amount of taxable wealth. It is a scheme by which government, for its own ends, makes special arrangements with money lenders. The fact that investment capital thus seeks the lower rate and the longer loan term in order to escape taxation would indicate that there is more profit in doing nothing much than in doing something industrially progressive, and that is the sign of bad taxation practice. There is no evil without some resulting good, of course, and perhaps it should not be overlooked that industrially the country has learned a lesson about borrowed capital that it never learned before. There was too much borrowing, too much of the habit of getting money to continue a losing program instead of adjusting the program until it produced its own money. American industry is going to find its salvation on the drawing board and not at the bank. But even so, the taxation that makes it unprofitable for men to work is essentially a bad taxation for the country. It will readily be granted that it permits a pretty cleanup for certain financial groups. No one will deny that it enables some financial institutions to get a grip which they should never have on industrial institutions. It all works into the plan to place the financier above the practical producer, but it is not beneficial to the country. Monetary institutions are excellent things in their place, but their place is not on the throne. Imagine running a railroad or a factory from a banker's office. There is doubtless a duty and a debt to those who, in response to our call, suffered loss, of whatever kind the loss may be. Certainly there is an element of fairness in the consideration that the man who stayed home and had a year or two advantage over the man who went should not thus put the soldier at a disadvantage. The breaks of war were many. They must be repaired where possible. Many of the breaks can never be repaired. The soldier himself would be of that opinion. People have always complained about them, and these are facts not to be disregarded. When people persist in disliking and speaking ill of a practice, there must be some reason for it. Anyway, it is a clue worth following. It may be that taxation is the wrong way to provide for the support of governments. It may be that governments ought to be so organized as to pay for themselves. It may be that taxation is the right way, but that the method of laying the tax, whatever penalizes recovery in industry, is bad. Whatever assists and rewards, it is good. Americans have been pretty successful as mechanics and as organizers of vast enterprises, but as inventors of a tax system, as administrators of government business in a way to render a stimulus that is now a burden and discouragement, we have much to learn. When America solves the tax question, she will have brought another degree of liberty to the world.